Aino is the brand new 4-star character that has arrived in Genshin Impact with version 6.0, and I've tested her on all her relevant teams to see if she is worth building for your account. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. When I'm clearing difficult content like in Stygian Onslaught, I can literally feel the lag when I try to go and switch. And I know I'm losing valuable seconds because of my ping. Fortunately for me, Gear Up Booster is here and it works, and it was actually an integral part of my Dire 6 clear with C0R1 characters. It is free to try and setup is extremely easy. Just open it, choose the game you're gonna play, and press boost. If you check the ping right now, we're at 90, and after relaunching while boosted from Gear Up, we are down to 67. So in my particular case, this is actually the breakpoint for an artifact set like Echoes of the Offering. So through using this service, I'm actually getting higher damage for one of my favorite characters. On the downside, I have to farm a whole new artifact set now. It is especially effective if you're playing a game from a different physical location from the server that you're on, and it is extremely secure, trusted by well-known creators, professional esports players for games such as Fortnite, League of Legends, and FIFA, as well as all their official partners, and of course enjoyed by millions of Genshin Impact players around the world. Please check out my link below, give it a try, and let me know how your ping was improved. Thanks to Gear Up Booster for sponsoring the channel once again, and thank you guys for watching. It's sponsors like these that allow me to get groceries for my family, so I really appreciate them. Now, in this video, I do want to acknowledge, first of all, that I'm going to be pretty biased towards Constellation 0 Aino, because that's all that we'll have available to us. On top of that, Aino is going to be on the second half of the 6.0 banner with Flynn's, and being a DPS, a lot of people are going to skip Flynn's. I have experienced Flynn's already, and although I can't show any footage of that, I know that with high constellations Aino will be best in slot for Flynn's, particularly at C6, maybe even at C2, although I did find Tenacity of the Millelith Farina to be a bit easier / better. But C2 Aino is basically the point where you want to start considering Aino for Flynn's. I did find her better than Yelan for Flynn's. So if you're wondering, is Aino worth building for your Flynn's? The answer is absolutely yes. And she is actually a must build if you do not have a Nefa. You need 2 Nodcry characters on your team for Flynn's, and if you don't have a Nefa, it has to be Aino. So that's the first thing. This video is more considering Aino for the rest of the players, the people who aren't going to be wishing on Flynn's, who are going to be having a Constellation 0 Aino. Just so you have an idea of her kit, she has off-field AoE elemental application with her burst, which is very valuable. She's got a very low cooldown on her burst, so she fits really well into short rotations, which is why she is so good with a lot of Nodcry characters such as Flynn's and the future Nefer, because she has such short rotations. Her skill has a cool grappling hook effect. It's just going to be used to make some energy. Her passives, if she is on a Nodcry team, she makes more Hydro application. Her second passive increases her damage. Her damage is pretty bad, especially at Constellation 0, so it's pretty irrelevant. And then, she counts as a Nodcry character. For Constellations, her C1 gives an 80 elemental mastery buff to the whole team. This is honestly huge. 80 is not tiny, and it really makes a big difference. Whether or not Aino is worth putting on one of your teams is going to be greatly impacted by if you have her Constellation 1 or not. Again, as I said before, only C0 is available right now, and only if you're going for Flynn's or Yelan are you going to be potentially getting this Constellation 1. I highly do not recommend wishing for Aino Constellations or building pity for Aino Constellations. I don't think she's strong enough for that, even at C1 or C2. If you're really low on off-field Hydro characters, it could be okay, because if you're, wishing on the Yelan banner, maybe you get a Yelan. And although I don't, Yelan is also questionable value now, but hey, if you're building pity and you get an early Yelan, or you get some early Aino Constellations, that could be okay. I could see some accounts where that could be okay. If you're wondering if that's for your account, if that would be a good idea, join our Discord and ask the help down below. I don't want to try go through every scenario where it may or may not be worth it, because I think it's very account dependent. Her C2 gives a little bit of extra Hydro application. It's not a crazy amount, and it only happens once every 5 seconds, but it is some, and it will make vaping and Hyperbloom better. C3's talent levels doesn't matter. C4 is more energy for Aino. It's pretty easy to build enough energy for her anyways. so it's not that big. C5 again, talents, and then C6 increases lunar bloom or lunar reaction damage, which is quite good. So basically it's C1, C2, and C6 that are the good ones. And yeah, you can basically ignore talents. I think for most people, if you're going to build Aino, I recommend her as an Imaginarium Theater character. Imaginarium Theater requires an absolute ton of characters to be built, and I think Aino is so easy to build as her passives don't give anything, her levels don't give anything, her damage doesn't do anything. You might as well just get her to level 70, use her in the theater, and you're good to go. I did my testing for her both on a server where I had her at level 90, as well as just at level 50 on my account for characters that I couldn't test there. So I've tested her at both. It makes a little, you know, it makes a little bit of a difference to get her to 90 and to put her talents to 99. Like, sure, it makes a little bit of a difference, but is it worth the resources, especially when she's going to be power crept by Columbina? Almost certainly no. But I do think, you know, she is going to be worth level 70ing, no talents, etc. for your theater. For her weapons, I think Fav Greatsword is just going to be the better option. I know a bunch of people probably built the Flame Forged Insight, and sure, this is going to be best for, you know, her personal damage. But I think with Imaginarium Theater, I think with Stygian Onslaught starting with no energy, that Fav is just way too good, and I highly think Fav is the way to go. Plus, you're probably not using all that many Fav Greatswords, so you probably have one free, so you might as well just build this and throw it on her. Plus, she needs energy anyways, so she's making use of it. The team is probably making use of it. I just think Fav is the way to go, you know, but if you don't have it, you don't want to use it, then of course, or if you just like really like Aino and you want to really invest in her personal damage, then this free-to-play option's good. It looks sick too. For artifacts, obviously the Nod Cry artifact set is going to be her best general option, but it's not the only option that you can choose. The way that the Silken Moon Serenade works is that as long as you have 2 Nod Cry characters on the team, you can put this artifact set on anyone, so it doesn't have to be on Aino, which is really, really interesting. As a result, if it ends up working better on someone else, you know, she can hold the Deepwood Memories artifact set. She can hold the Instructors artifact set. You know, for Flynn's, if an F is already on Silken Moon, you could put her on the Noblesse artifact set. You can't put her on Tenacity because her skill doesn't hit off field. So she has a lot of options for supportive artifact sets. And for stats, ER, EM, EM is good, or ER, EM, and crit rate, I think would be the most recommendable. Crit rate so you can proc Fav. Otherwise, you can just go EM. If you have enough ER, you can go EM, 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 or EM, EM crit. But again, with Stygian Onslaught, I just tend to just like going extra ER, so ER sans. And I don't think many people, I think by the time you can actually min-max your Aino's damage, Columbina is going to be out. So I don't think it's worth like really building into a personal damage unless, again, you're really min-maxing for Aino, you love Aino, and then yeah, you know, you can go for crit, EM, etc. You don't want to do, actually, because she doesn't do lunar reaction damage, you can use Hydro Damage Goblet as well. So that's builds. On to teams. I talked about in Lauma being the best free-to-play option. Now, this was my Lauma guide. So yes, she does remove the ability for your blooms to crit. However, at Constellation 2, the extra Hydro application, the ADEM, it was competitive to other options. Testing it a bit more, again, it is a little bit worse than I originally felt like it was. I feel like this is how I would rank Lauma's partners. So this is your baseline team. Raiden can obviously be switched to Kuki with no problem. Yelan is definitely the best. And after some more testing, I actually found Nahida reasonably close. And then behind that, I found Constellation 6 Candace and Constellation 2 Aino about on par. If you're wondering why it's about on par, it's the 80 EM. It's the additional 60 elemental mastery. So it's an additional 140 elemental mastery and an additional 10% lunar reaction damage. So you are losing 15% of your blooms critting in exchange for 140 EM and 10% lunar reaction damage. Is that worth it? No, but it's about equivalent to C6 Candace and C2 Aino. If your Aino is C0, then C6 Candace is better. I also did test Fischl on the team. My Fischl has quite a good build, and I found Fischl was behind even Constellation 0 Aino. And I think Sucrose's EM share is a little bit too inconsistent because you're going to have Dendro Aura a lot of the time. And if you're not having Dendro Aura, then you're losing Bloom up time. So I don't really like Sucrose on this team. And then Auroran's damage bonus doesn't do anything. There just aren't like that many options for off-field Hydro. So yeah, I think Aino could be closer to Yelan if you have Constellation 6, but that's never going to happen. And honestly, C2 is never going to happen. So if you have Nahida, I think this is your like free-to-play general recommendation team for Lauma, at least the one that I would recommend, assuming you don't have Yelan. If you have Yelan, then use Yelan. If you don't have Yelan, use Nahida. And if you don't have Nahida, then use C6 Candace. And if you don't have C6 Candace, then you can consider Aino. Okay, next is Arlecchino. This one was pretty interesting to me. I was excited to see how Aino compared to Yelan on this team. Aino was a little bit trickier to get the Hydro Aura to stick. I was able to get the vapes for it, but it was a little bit trickier than Yelan. With Constellation 2, it does make it a bit easier. Even though it's only every 5 seconds, that extra bit of Hydro really does help, but it is even possible to get enough Hydro at Constellation 0. Unfortunately, without the 80 EM buff, I just found Yelan outperformed Aino. However, one thing to consider is I was not able to test in the Stygian Onslaught, and the more rotations you do, if you're playing really, really well, Yelan's cooldown can extend the rotations for Arlecchino. So I could see Aino being closer if you're playing really, really well, and she allows for those super short, super tight rotations. Inefa has a 16-second cooldown, and Bennett's is 15, so Aino does allow you to have shorter cooldowns. So I think if you're able to get C1 Aino and you're playing over Vape, I do think that that would be enough of an upgrade to be worth swapping Yelan for Aino for Arlecchino teams. I definitely don't think it's worth summoning for Yelan for your Arlecchino teams. I still think that Melt is overall going to be better if you have a really invested Arlecchino, but if your Arlecchino is worse, then I could see the Inefa team being better. At worst, this is a nice upgrade to, like, especially if you get C1 Aino, this is a nice upgrade to Arlecchino's best alternative to Melt, which I think is valuable. Maybe you don't have Melt, maybe Melt's not good in that Abyss, maybe you just want something a bit easier to play. You know, this is overall a buff for Arlecchino. Even if it's not a buff to her absolute ceiling team, it is still a buff. And a free character, you know, only one extra copy to be definitively better than Yelan, that's pretty cool. The same also holds true for Hu Tao. This should be Hu Tao's best team. Just full stop, no contingencies. This is just her best team. It does require you to have Inefa, but if you're a Hu Tao main, you probably already have Yelan, and if you don't, you know, maybe you're wishing for Yelan on the Aino banner, then you're getting copies of Aino. So that's really, really cool. Hu Tao getting a buff. Should be the same case kind of for yoimiya as well. Very interesting that Farina is off of Hu Tao's best team now. I don't know that this would be like enough of an upgrade to like switch your whole strategy. Like maybe you already have a Constellation 1 Farina, you know, maybe you have like, and then you're using Shalonen. Should you really switch to Inefa? I doubt it. But I think if you're, you know, really simping for Hu Tao and I think it makes sense to go for the different options that allow you to play her. So I think Inefa, you know, the Aino, that core is really good for Hu Tao to have an option as well, other than a Farina option. More options is always better. Aino doesn't really have any value on a Skirk team or really on any of the other teams that I can think of. So yeah, overall, you know, for a free character, I'm okay with Aino. I think she's in an all right spot. I said I was quite disappointed when I was testing her on stream, and I think really what it is I think Aino is actually perfectly fine. I have such a problem with the 4-star situation in Genshin Impact. It's if you could just get C1, C2 Aino without too much hassle, I wouldn't have a problem with this at all. As is, you have to risk so much to get a Constellation 1 or 2 Aino with no guarantee. If there was a guarantee, that's one thing, but there's not. So it just really highlights the problems that Genshin Impact has. Yeah, so let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you're satisfied with Aino. Let me know if you're going to build her. I think she's worth still building for everyone, at least to level 70 for theater. But let me know what you're going to do. Subscribe while you're down there. Check out the podcast that's linked in the description. If you don't want to do any of that, totally fine. Just watching the video has been more than enough. Thanks so much. Bye for now.